Welcome to the Unhurried Living podcast. My name is Alan Fadling, and I invite you to listen to leadership conversations that will help you to develop healthy rhythms of rest and work, and to live fuller in friendship with God. I hope this podcast will help you to overcome hurry and make time for what matters most. And now, enjoy today's episode. Hey friends, welcome to episode 231 of the podcast. My name's Alan, and I'm so glad you've joined me here. I'm hopeful that our time together will help you rediscover an unhurried way of life and leadership. Each week on the podcast, we have leadership conversations to help us lead better in the spirit of Jesus' unhurried way, the way of leadership that flows from a full soul instead of an empty one. Sometimes I'm talking with fellow authors, and sometimes I'm talking with leaders just like you who are learning to live and lead at the fruitful pace of grace and peace. Today, rather than sharing an author interview or a leadership conversation, I'm going to share with you a daily practice that has been an important element of my own unhurried life and work rhythms for a while now. It's rooted in some of the insights I wrote about in the last chapter of An Unhurried Leader, which is titled Working with God. By the way, episode 205 of this podcast, Working for God or Working with God, based on that chapter, is one of our top 5 most downloaded episodes. If you haven't already listened to that one, or it's been a while, I encourage you to go back to that one as well. This has been a big idea that's been transforming how I think about and engage my own work. Now, before I say more, if you're a new listener, welcome to the podcast. If you find these episodes helpful, would you please follow, rate, and review? And be sure to share this podcast with your friends. The daily practice I'm going to share with you in this episode is one I've come to call praying my work. Perhaps like you, I keep track of my work in terms of projects and tasks that I'm engaging in a personal task manager that syncs between my computer and my smartphone. Now, there are plenty of tools like this, and you probably use a tool like it to manage your own work. But the daily practice of praying my work begins at the end of each day as part of my night prayer. I enjoy starting and ending my day with the daily office of the Book of Common Prayer. This rhythm of praying historic prayers and key passages of Scripture has been one important way of praying for me for years now. Near the end of my night prayer, I take a moment to prayerfully plan the work of the following day. And again, many leaders plan their daily work the night before. But as I'm creating a plan for the following day, I am also envisioning prayerfully what it will look and feel like to conduct that meeting or work on that project or complete a particular task in the presence of God. God is with me always. God is with you always, even in those tasks that might seem to be the most mundane. So sometimes I'm asking God for a particular grace as it relates to an item on my work list for the following day. I might feel the need for peace to displace anxiety about something I plan to do. This is often true, for example, with any sort of writing or other creative work. My insecurities and my self-doubts are often triggered in work like that. When I'm praying for an appointment, I may ask God to help me and those with whom I'll meet to sense God's gracious presence in those moments. When praying for an appointment, I may ask God to help me and those with whom I'll meet to sense God's gracious presence in those moments. I may remember something about why we're meeting and acknowledge my gratitude for how God will be present with us in just the ways we need. So, as I'm ending my day prayerfully, I pray through the work of the following day. As a structure-oriented person, I'll often estimate how much time I'll invest in each project or task. Praying for the work of the next day helps me envision how God will companion me in it all. Then, when I'm beginning the next day in morning prayer, I repeat this same practice. Near the end of my morning prayer, as I'm getting ready to enter into the work of my day, I again pray my work. In this praying, I may think of work that wasn't on my list the night before. I'll add those items. I may rearrange my day as a result of my morning prayer. But again, I envision how God will be with me as I engage my work through the course of the day. And then, having prayed my work the night before and in the morning as I prepare for my day, I then work my prayer. As I step into the first task of the day, which is, for me, often engaging a current writing project, I do so with a sense of collaborating with God. God is always the primary worker, and my work is a response to God's work. I find this practice energizing, encouraging, and fruitful. In fact, it's a way that I put into practice our simple tagline at Unhurried Living: rest deeper, live fuller, lead better. These 6 words aren't just a creative marketing piece. They are an essential description of how we're learning to live and lead with less hurry. The sequence of these 3 phrases isn't accidental. I lead better and I do better work when I do everything from a more rested soul and a more flourishing life. Most of the Christian leaders I mentor or coach or train share just how draining these last couple of years have been for them. In a few months, I'll have been in paid vocational ministry for 40 years. I don't know if I've ever witnessed a time when it has been harder for women and men to be engaged in vocational Christian ministry. And so practices that help us cultivate an awareness of God with us to refresh us, encourage us, and energize us for our share in His work are even more critical these days. We need to care well for our souls, not just for our own sake, but for the sake of those we serve. Praying our work, as I've described here, is just one simple practice to help us realize more deeply and more often that no matter what our work happens to be, it is just one more expression of our communion with God. Our friendship with God can be cultivated and expressed in our daily work. It is the practical place where we can practice God's presence with us. In this praying the work practice, I will also take a moment on Sunday evenings to reflect in God's presence on some of the big pieces of work that I intend to engage in the week ahead. I'll have a list of those projects or tasks that I want to see significant progress on, and this is what I'll draw my daily work planning from. My praying the work isn't just a strategic planning activity. It's just another moment to enjoy the fruitful friendship with God into which I've been invited. Now, again, you might enjoy reading the final chapter of An Unhurried Leader to get more insight into what working with God looks and feels like. And if you'd like even more help, you can join the wait list for a new coaching group that I'll be starting early this next year called Working with God. These groups are limited to 10 leaders who meet 6 times over 3 months. These have proven to be among the most fruitful ways I'm serving leaders these days. So to get on that wait list, to be among the first to learn when registration opens, visit unhurriedliving.com and click on the coaching link in our menu. I'd love to be able to help you learn how to deepen your own sense of working with God. I hope this episode has been helpful to you. In the next few episodes, we'll be talking with authors Matt Tebbe, Ben Sternke, James K.A. Smith, and Tom Nelson. I'll also be sharing a few episodes toward the end of the season to introduce my latest book and the third volume of my Unhurried trilogy, A Year of Slowing Down, Daily Devotions for Unhurried Living. It releases in early December from InterVarsity Press, and you can pre-order it now at your favorite bookseller. I can't wait to share these episodes with you. Finally, another way to receive help from Unhurried Living is to join our Unhurried Daily email list. For 40 days, we'll send you a brief daily email that offers personal reflections from life and Scripture to help you take the next step in following Jesus' unhurried way. You can sign up on our website at unhurriedliving.com. We're honored to encourage thousands of leaders just like you. Thanks for listening. You've been listening to the Unhurried Living podcast. Join me next time to learn more about following the genius of Jesus' unhurried way of life and leadership.